Hello, and welcome to Ideas with Diana on this October 17th, 2025, Thursday. I'd like to discuss an issue in regards to society, namely about um, how people interact with each other through different generations. Um, there are many friends that I know from the theater group that are a different generation than me, and also they're in the late 20s and in their 30s. Some are even in their 40s. I'm in my 60s. But the thing is, we get along together. But there are other cases where sometimes when I do interact with other members, I have friends who are like a friend who is 45 who interacted with someone who's in their late in the early adulthood years, basically about early 20s. um, it came into a bit of a tense moment because this friend, she worked in fast food for many years, was a manager at different restaurants, Denny's and other places, and McDonald's. And what the simple issue was is basically, for example, um, I'm retired. I have hobbies. As one hobby I have is a doll maker, doll collector, doll designer, and doll house maker, dolls collector, and doll house designer. But also, one hobby that thing that we started from that was part of my career was I used to do tutoring for college students, basically in engineering, science, mathematics, um, and and also some in the humanities that are working social work and others. And I restarted this for a friend of mine because she was needed help with some of the classes and tutoring, and I work on a sliding scale. But the thing is, what happens, like most working adults, basically, people who go to school basically sometimes work late, and sometimes by the time they get to meet someone, it's like 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock at night, and sometimes there's a little bit delay. But the other thing is also sometimes they're a little bit tired because basically they've been, whether in traffic or whether taking the bus or something else. Um, However, when they go in a fast food restaurant, the silliness, the reverse racism, it has to stop, as well as the social class warfare. Because basically, many of us understand what people are going through, because, and especially those in the gener in the, that are generation younger, 2 generations or 3 generations younger than we are. Because what happens here, those in the younger generations, you're working much harder. You're not getting the full benefits that our generation had. And I can understand. And plus you have student loans that are begging down your back from state universities where we graduated without any student loan debt because state university tuitions were set at a level that basically you didn't have to take out student loan. Normally, the only time you took out student loan in my generation is if you went to Princeton, Harvard, Yale, Stanford, UCLA, major universities, not a state college, or not like part of the University of Wisconsin system. However, even at Parkside students, UW Parkside students graduate with a $45,000 debt just for a basic undergraduate degree, which I find amazing like that, though. And also with the residence fees they pay, and other things. um, and this leads to the issue about where sometimes what happens with the silliness, reverse racism and cultural warfare. Yes, there's certain people who throw things up to other people saying, but please recognize who your enemies are. I'm not your enemy, and my friend wasn't your enemy. But it came out in a tense moment because last night's tutoring, and at one point I have I have health issues and it's starting to get cold because and I need to get coffee to warm up. So I went up and got coffee. I asked if I if I could get a cup of coffee, and I paid for a small cup of coffee. Then what happens when I finished? I went to ask if I could get a refill. The two front end clerks looked at me like, well, I don't know if we can give you a refund. I said, well, can I? And they said, well, we got to ask the manager. And then I waited 5 minutes for the manager to come. And a friend of mine who I was tutoring came on. She said, well, why is it taking so long to get a refill on coffee? The coffee machine was right behind them. It's just and in other places, people are trained. You just come up and give a refill, and that's it. I won't name the restaurant. I've been going there for 30 years, and I'll just say this one thing: when Junior Bridgman and Bob Bonnier owned the franchise, it was a much better managed franchise, and nothing like this ever happened. But under the new ownership, since there have been issues because it used to be rated a 4 plus, but now it's down to 1.5 on Yelp. I hope they improve it. But um, it became a little bit of a tense one because the person who was with me, she worked and she talked to me and she said, well, you should have them work together, not just sort of stick to one thing, and it says I don't understand why they couldn't get the coffee without your approval. And it's like so this is different compared to when I worked in fast food many years ago, and she's doing a new career as a social worker. So what happened was we ended the tutoring session. I was able to help her with her assignment, and it's ongoing. However, when I got home, I had a massive bowel stress release. I wasn't feeling well. I almost made a call to my psychiatric nurse because I was so upset about it. It took me until about 3 o'clock in the morning to get over it. But if for further tutoring things, we'll go someplace else. And that though I was hoping basically to go there because that's within walking distance of my apartment. I do have a driver's license, but I don't have a car. Due to my income and due to what I consider unnecessary EPA regulations, where in Wisconsin, if you car fails emission, you got to put at least $900 in your car. Based on what I get paid on Social Security, that's over 90% of my budget. And you only have 30 days to fix that. I wouldn't be able to maintain a car that way, like that though. And so, in addition, considering a car payment like that though. So, and I like to do other stuff. I'm limited because basically my health insurance costs at least $45,000 in medication to keep me in the state that I am now, plus 4 specialists and that though. So I can't afford to lose my health insurance. So basically, that's why I try to help friends out through gig work, a little bit here and there like that though. It's not much, but it does help near the last week of the month. Um, However, with the silliness, the reverse racism, the cultural warfare, even like in the Doctor Woke video response I supported, that I posted on Facebook, um, the reverse racism, the silliness, and the cultural warfare has got to stop. We're a community. We need to work together, and we're going to make things worse by having these mini warfare things where you have to worry whenever you go into a fast food restaurant businesses who's working the front end, who's the manager, and who's the such and such. This goes back into different things I see different talk shows on YouTube and other things where people talk about people who came from socialist or communist countries always say, well, nice thing about coming to America is you don't have to worry about someone doing sort of um, not denying you service because of who you are or because you're not a member of the party. But when we have reverse racism, silliness, and class warfare, we are becoming like a communist country, and it's a scary thought. I mean, I thought basically we're moving into a second world country, which we are with lawfare, what we did during the election, and that has to stop too. Um, because what the problem is when you get that many people will tell you who lived in a communist and socialistic country, even those countries that are allies of us, like that, those some that live in like Sweden and other things, when they come over here, it's like it's nice to be able to go to a movie and not consider it a luxury, or it's nice to buy a gallon of milk and not have to pay a 25% sales tax and stuff like that, though. Yet, what happens? People are practicing. I don't know if they're being indoctrinated into practices or something, but what I'm concerned about with those generations that are younger than me, um, like like my parents would say, if when we sort of got into some strange things like that, they say, "Well, who's teaching you?" Because they say you wouldn't naturally gravitate to this, so who's teaching you? And that's why I sort of say to some people, it may be someone that used to think it's fun or other stuff, but it's not. If you want to see a good example of some cross generational working together, um, watch a video on YouTube with Chapel Gone with Pink Pony Club where she performs with Nancy Wilson of Heart Barracuda. I mean, Nancy Wilson is a little bit older than me, and but I love Heart's music as well, and it's wonderful to see that and that type of collaboration. That's how things should be in the United States. We shouldn't have this class warfare, this reverse racism, this surliness. We're not a communistic and socialistic culture, but it's getting to that. So I mean, and so regarding with my with when I tutor students, I'm going to have to go to a different place, and what happens, I'm going to have to take a bus to get there. But also, that's going to raise the cost of what I charge my students because I'm going to have them. I'm going to have to increase that cost in my fees for tutoring students and also other things. And um, so when people complain about prices, you also got to understand it's also the environment. If there's an environment that's close by and it's a good environment, doesn't have what I just mentioned, then prices can be low. But if people have to go to another environment because um, the negative aspects exist, then prices are higher. And I work on a sliding scale. I charge some. I work on a sliding scale, and right now I just have one student that I'm tutoring and helping out. But I'm really concerned about how this thing works out because, like I said, I've been going to this restaurant for 30 years. Many managers I know, but it's basically some of the newer people, and part of the problem is it's just simple things, getting a refill on coffee, or even just basically when you order and do and get a key tag frosty. Say, well, we need to see a key tag. I've gone in there regularly, and they know I have a key tag, and it's like sort of like a power trip for them. So I mean that's why basically now I tutor basically I'll have to tutor I'll tutor a different fast food restaurant, and also I'm going to have to vary where I go to my fast food when I do go out to eat, because normally I prefer to support my local neighborhood, but I guess I'm going to familiarity breeds contempt, so I'm going to have to go to different areas, and this shouldn't have to be. I mean, we're not a socialist country. We're not a communist country yet, but we're starting to have inklings of doing this when we do lawfare during elections, and attack political foes when use the Justice Department attack political foes as some people have suspected, and basically I I don't I don't know what to think and how these who's teaching these people to do this type of thing. This is not American. This is not the American way. This is not the reason why we had the Revolutionary War, not to have it where one class can pit against another class or one generation can pit against another generation. We're supposed to be united, and we succeeded by always working in a united way. Basically, that's why we're the United States. We're not the we're not the states of America. We are the United States of America, not the states, and that's why we have states, not provinces. And also that's also why we have a federal government, not a confederacy, because we tried a confederacy and confederacies don't work. And that's also why when we went to a federal government, we also went to a republic, because a republic protects the individual rights. A democracy only protects the rights of those in power, tyranny of the democracy. So we have to get back to people practicing that basically civics means you don't you don't say, well, just because this person was raised in the suburbs, or just because this person can afford to go out to fast food, even though they may buy from the dollar menu, or they may just buy basically a junior cheeseburger, Wendy's, or Key Frosty or something, that that they're the enemy because that they're not, quote, working well. Many of us have a disability. I mean, I sound good now, but what happens is, even if I were to do something for long periods of time, I can't do things for more than 20 minutes at a time without taking a break. And I do have to take a nap in the afternoon now because of my health. Um, in that though, so I can do some things, but I can't do a regular work environment. I'd actually be a burden in that though. And many companies couldn't even afford my health insurance, and that's the other thing too. So um, please, um, stop the reverse racism, stop the silliness, stop the class warfare. I'm not your enemy. Many of us who are older are not your enemy. We understand what you're going through, and we are trying our best to help. We're trying to contact different people. However, we believe in basically having a conversation, not calling on the phone and demanding and having harsh phone calls or anything else. But we're trying to get people to, sometimes a 15-minute coffee chat does wonders. And this is what I when I during my career, when I worked at SCS as an associate vice president and executive. Um, I worked from the Reagan administrations all the way through the W administration, and I found many times when we talked about different types of matters, whether it's emergency management, whether it was certain types of policy matters, certain types of social government affairs matters. Sometimes the best thing that the best solution was what I would call the 15-minute coffee chats. I have a cup of coffee, I walk around, and basically one person even joked, they said, if we ever made a statue at SCS, we'd have make a statue of holding a cup of coffee, talking with someone during the session breaks. And those 15-minute coffee chats, we got a lot done. And it wasn't pointing fingers, it wasn't yelling, it wasn't saying, well, and it wasn't using pronouns. It wasn't saying, well, let's see, I'm gender fluid, bi-queer, such and such. It's like you didn't have to go through that. You didn't have to say that. What happens? A person can tell by your demeanor, comportment, temperament. Yes, okay, you exert certain tendencies, but what happens is, you didn't have to say it because the person said, look, I understand you're comfortable as you are. I'm comfortable right now meeting with you, having a cup of coffee. So you don't have to indoctrinate me. So let's just talk about the matter at hand, and that's what we do. We talk about the matter at hand, but even with this indoctrination every time, that has to stop too, because that's also part of communism and socialism, is to make sure everyone is indoctrinated to the central committee thinking. Consequently, regarding athletics, um, I still have concerns about how transgender has been used in certain sports, because for many families, the only way their children can go to school is through an athletic scholarship, or the other way is basically is sign up through the armed services, through LOTC or some other programs. And but what happens when you have sports being gamed, by certain people, or not even maybe certain sporting certain universities or administrations with some suspect. Um, then basically, um, like in the 70s when the Olympics were being gamed by the abuse of transgenderism by what was known as the former East Germany, then it's time to do genetic testing, basically for women athletes and male athletes participating in sports to verify that basically that their body has changed to the gender that they claim to be performing in. And also what happens in regards to where basically someone wishes to perform. I don't approve of people like what happened many months ago in California. There was a collegiate sporting event where there's a trans athlete. She completed an event and won a medal. And but what happened was there were many of the parents who waited at the finish line and booed her as she came. That is more than just bad sportsmanship. That's again getting to this communist socialistic propaganda thinking of booing the deviant, booing the intellectual dissenter who doesn't go with the party. No, when you're at a sporting event, if you're going to do stuff like that, please don't come, and please to the staff, have those type of people stay outside the sporting event because sports are supposed to be celebrations of a person's ability, and if you're coming there just to harass someone, no, and if you need it, and you say, well, you need to sell tickets to fill a stadium. No, sports are not supposed to be a hateful event, especially not in America, especially not in the United States. When I worked as a medical researcher in Milwaukee, there's one person, a friend of mine I worked with, who was from the Netherlands, and he and his wife, what they told me, what they loved about when they came to Milwaukee at that time, is that. Oh, hold on just a minute. Just have a phone call coming in. Hold on. Just a minute there. Let's see. Um, but what they liked about when they came, a friend of mine, what they liked when they came from the Netherlands, and his wife came to Netherlands from Milwaukee in the 80s, like that though, and through the 90s, is when they went to a Packer game and they went to a Brewer game. It's nice that the games were peaceful. When you went to a Brewer game, you had people sometimes that cheer for the Brewers, to cheer for the White Sox, to cheer for the Cubs, and it's like, well, it's a fun cheering. It's a fun. People who are spirited it's fun. But you didn't have to worry about someone beating you up because basically you're wearing the long soccer scarf or wearing the long team scarf or something, and you didn't have the stadium where you had to have a picket fence that separated the two fans from one fan that supported the blue scarf and one fan that supported the green scarf, or what they call sports hooliganism or something in Europe. But nowadays, what happens, we're starting to get to that should stop. Um, Again, this socialist communistic thinking, and I'm glad that President Trump is working to get back to the American way of life, and that basically, but we should realize we need to work together. We achieve more by working together, and foreign groups will try to divide us, and it's best to know when you're being indoctrinated. Sometimes what I do is I turn the news off and don't watch the news for a while just to make sure to clear my head. And I end up watching a lot of streaming because even with TV, I start to see too much indoctrination on TV. So, but please, we got to get back to working together. We got to get back to dropping the silliness, the reverse racism, and the class cultural warfare. Because all of us are in the same boat, or as my grandfather used to say, we all drink from the same trough, meaning that basically, no matter what our station or class in life, we all drink from the same trough. So that's always been the motto of our family, and that's why we've always tried to help as many people as we can. And that's why I sort of am trying to help a student in tutoring, but we have to go to a different place now because um, until they change it, and we'll just go to a different place to do the tutoring. But I was hoping we could do it there because it's closer for me and it saves on my cost, especially near the end of the month. Well, let me know what you think. The best way to reach me is on YouTube, Facebook, X, Blue Sky, and Pinterest. And this has been Ideas with Diana, thoughts on social aspects of society.